I had a situation today. Someone in one of our consulting sessions on a Zoom call broke down and started crying. So, we're going to talk in this video about how you handle team members, what to do when things seem like they're falling apart for them. How do you pull it all back together? To give you a little bit of background, if you've watched videos on this channel before, that I'm a financial advisor, but for a long time, I've also been consulting, mentoring high-end financial advisors all over the world. Our client advisors are among the best in the world. More on that in a minute. It's the moral of the story. We were on a Zoom call today. The way we work is we establish a goal for each team we work with. I first and foremost need to know, what are you trying to accomplish? We have sessions after that to implement the plan that was resulting from those conversations. We end up working with everyone on the team. We work with the financial advisor themselves, the owner of the firm. We work with the team that deliver the service to the clients. Now, in our model, all these financial advisors we work with, like me, they're delivering truly comprehensive financial services, but not just at any level. They are delivering the level of service that cannot be achieved by anyone else in their community. We're going to come back to that in a minute. But every one of the advisors we work with, they're either the number one top firm in their market, their community, their niche market, whatever it is, but they have a reputation of being the foremost firm in their market, or else they're working with us because the goal is to get there. Now, how do I know that every team is serious about being the number one leader in their market? Because on our first call, they have to persuade me that they're serious. So I know that every firm that we're working with wants to be the dominant force in their market. We have a system for delivering truly comprehensive financial services in a way that exceeds their clients' expectations. So they all work with me because they want to move from being, let's say, a very good firm in their area, or maybe an above average firm in their market. They want to move from that role up to number one, hands down, the top firm in their market. The reason is because that was my story. I had a business coach years ago in the early 2000s, a guy named Dan Sullivan. He told me that having a plan to take your firm 10x from where it is right now, Dan Sullivan used to say 10x is easier than 2x. I took him seriously, and now I can tell you in retrospect, it's true that what's hard is getting to be a 10x capable company. Then once you've got the team and you've got the systems, you got the process, you've got the whole idea dialed in, then when you are the only game in town and there's no competition in your market, there's no other firm that can deliver anywhere close to the level that you do, then it's a lot easier. Clients will hire a firm like that. They will fire their existing firm like that. It's just easier and faster to acquire clients if it's well known you're the best firm in the market. So that's what we insist upon. They have to convince me that they're serious about before they come to work with me. So back to my story. Let's talk about the tears. We were in a Zoom call today. It was a little bit of an assessment call to put the finger on something that had just occurred in their business. They're trying to implement a project to fix a bunch of problems in their firm. In this call, it became evident that someone on the call was responsible for not following a process. If you're a process-driven firm, and most firms are not, they think they are because we've got processes for everything right here. But when I say process-driven firm, every significant procedure and process, especially the ones that affect clients, they're all documented. And they're documented step by step so that if somebody was out or not available in work, another person could pick up the process and understand the process well enough to follow it and come reasonably close to executing flawlessly for consistency. In this case, it wasn't that something happened and there wasn't a process. No, that happens too. But in this case, there was a documented process. It wasn't followed. Now we have a problem. It didn't take long for this to come to light in the Zoom call today. When it became crystal clear who's responsible, we had to accept that and move on. The responsibility of a team member, in my opinion, is when they're in the wrong, you take accountability very quickly and you move on. If you're going to say anything, don't say any excuses. I really can't handle excuses. But if you're going to say anything at all, it better sound something like this. And it's on my list to document this process so that if it ever comes up, this will never happen again, this problem or whatever happened. That's acceptable. But in this case, what happened was the individual didn't want to recognize what happened, which was very simple. There is a process. It wasn't followed. So I stopped the meeting and I said, can't we just accept responsibility so we can move on? When you have a firm that is fighting to get to be number one and they want to get there quickly, you don't have time to sit around and have conversations like this. In this situation, when it became crystal clear whose responsibility this was, and she didn't want to accept responsibility at first, there was a lot of excuses and the tears came. I never know what to do in those situations. I am not the most empathetic person. I do feel horrible that they are emotionally upset about this, but I've got somebody in my firm, my right-hand person, who's very empathetic, very good with situations like this. What I normally do is just shut the meeting down and say, let me have somebody follow up with you on this. Then I will have the most empathetic person on our team. Everybody's got their strengths. We've got somebody who's very empathetic to call this person up, hold their hand, walk through the situation and tell them it's okay. And it's okay because you accept responsibility and then it's over. Just take the hit and move on. That's the best way. I'm assuming that the team is focused on getting to number one, that they'll do everything. That's the moral of this story, and I'll sum up with that in a minute. In this meeting, I couldn't stop the meeting and hand her over to my number two to deal with the issue. We had to continue in the meeting. I just moved on. Nobody raised their voice. Nothing inappropriate was said. It was just, we had this situation. One of the people on the call is now crying. We just had to move on, which we did. So does that make me a horrible person? Am I just an unsympathetic asshole? Is that what's happening here? Let me tell you some things you might not know. First of all, for context, I've already told you that these firms are exclusively focused on going from whatever stage they are in their current business. They want to take over the number one firm. They want to take that slot. They want to become known as unquestionably the number one firm in their market. The reason I ask firms to convince me of this up front is because I know something they either don't know or they're about to find out, which is it's not just the owner of the firm that has to have this focus. It's got to be the entire team. When you talk about a project this large, has this many moving parts that involve everyone that works there, that's why we end up working with their team, because it's not just the owner of the firm. It's not just the administrative manager, the person that coordinates all this. We show them how to build and lead a team. So each team has a CPA for tax planning, an estate planning lawyer for estate planning, chartered financial analyst for money management. You get the idea. The team is very skilled, highly experienced people. So to get this group of high-powered people to admit when things go wrong, take responsibility and move on, that's just not the way it always works. Sometimes there's crying. I will tell you something else that you don't know. We end up interacting with someone in one of our meetings about once every week or two. There's tears like this. So we deal with it quite a bit. Now, I'm not going to get into why people are moved to tears when they realize they're the center of attention for something that went wrong. I'm not going to attempt to diagnose why they moved to tears. All I'm going to say is I feel horrible for them, but in the end, I've got to hand them over to someone that can effectively nurture them, and it's not going to be me. Then we've got to move on because the rest of the team is gunning for that number one slot. We have to show a sense of urgency. That's the point. Everybody on the team, we don't work with them unless literally everyone on the team is completely focused on this goal and everybody's willing to make the effort. I can promise you one thing: to go from whatever you are currently, number 2 or 3 or 4 slot in your market, to go up to number 1, it takes a huge amount of effort. Not just any one individual on the team. It takes everybody rowing as hard as they can if you're going to take that spot. But we've got the method to show them how to do it, but they have to do the work. Every couple of weeks, maybe every week, we get somebody who's moved to tears. This is a high-powered environment. I don't know if maybe some individuals are not used to being in a high-powered environment, a high-performance environment. It's like joining the NFL. If you're used to playing high school football or scrimmaging around the front yard, then they put you out on the field on Sunday, say, oh, just now you're on national TV. Let's see what you got. Some people are just not ready for that. They aren't prepared to be in the NFL. They're not either able or willing to do what it takes to get to that number one slot. That's when we come with the tears. The reason I turn them over to my number 2 is to assess whether they have what it takes. If they have what it takes, that team member, then we show them what to do to get out of these situations where maybe they're accountable for something that went wrong. We show how to get in front of these issues, to be more thorough, be more proactive, how to conquer these situations, then deal with the problem. But if when we assess them, they're neither willing nor able to make the appropriate effort, then we politely disengage. And we've done that quite a bit over the years. We get into it with the team only to find out that there's a handful of key members of the team that just are unable or unwilling to step up. In that case, I sit down with the owner and I say, this isn't working out. What do you want to do? Because you've got people on your team that have to step up or they need to step out. As long as they're willing to replace with somebody who's now willing to be the proper team player, step up and do the work. All right. So before anyone comes on board with us, starts working with me, we have an entire onboarding process. The process is designed to get to know the firm, what their capabilities are. I'm assessing them at the beginning. But for me, it's a very binary thing. When I'm assessing a team at the beginning, I'm just trying to figure out 2 things: which mode you're in. I'm assessing each individual team member for 3 factors. As far as what mode the team is in, there's only 2 modes. There's action mode, which is I'm all over it. I'm taking action immediately. I'm not delaying. We all have a sense of urgency. Let's get this done. That's action mode. The other mode I call information mode or learning mode. I'm trying to figure out with each individual on the team, are you in action mode? Or are you in learning mode where you're just trying to learn this system of ours, this methodology? You're doing a lot of information gathering. Well, I'm actually okay with that as far as it goes, but I'm not going to work with them directly. We have a program for people in learning mode. It's self-paced, lots of videos, step-by-step instructions, so they can go do that. I call learning mode getting ready to take action, or you're in action mode and you want to get it done. When I'm assessing a team, I make sure everybody is in action mode. And there's nobody that's going to not pull their weight when we start rowing this boat in tandem. I said the other thing that I'm looking for are 3 personality traits. I look for head smarts, hunger, and humility. Head smarts means I've got to be convinced that the individuals on the team have the raw brain power to actually implement a complex system like ours. That's almost never the problem. Hunger is along the lines of what we're talking about. So when you come into a meeting, you realize you're responsible, you fight that to the point of not taking accountability, then I question the hunger of that team member to achieve the goal that everyone else has signed on to. If you have one individual that has the head smarts, but not the hunger, that's a problem. We got to fix that. They have to, I hate to say it, they have to shape up or ship out. Now, we have a person on the team that's very empathetic and will help them do that. But in the end of the day, that's what has to happen. They need to they need to become an effective member of the team and start rowing, or else we've got to replace them. Then the third is humility. My way of defining that is they're not the type of personality to grab credit for everything onto themselves, nor are they the type of person to throw others on the team under the bus. I'm looking for someone with humility, which to me means you want to see everyone on the team succeed. So if there's head smarts, hunger, and humility, that's great. Then you're in action mode. You have both those things going for you. We can work together on this. So the final two steps, then I'll sum all this up, what to do when the tears come in a meeting. The two final steps are there has to be a team goal. I would call this desire to become the number one firm. That's the mission. Should you choose to accept it, is we're going to move from whatever rank we are currently into the number one spot. That's the mission. What I'm talking about is the team needs a goal. In our industry, in that we are retail financial advisors, rather than corporations, institutions, and businesses being our clients, we have individuals and families as clients. Our job is to coordinate all the financial affairs for our community of ideal clients. So we do a whole lot more for a very small community of clients. What I always propose as the initial team goal is to get everyone on board to the idea that we are working to consistently exceed our clients' expectations as measured by an increasing annual client referral rate. So you've got all the elements of a goal, except for the date that it's got to be achieved by. That's a good team goal, especially at the beginning. If everybody on the team signs off on the goal that as a team, we are going to consistently exceed clients' expectation. So how are we going to measure success? We're going to measure success by client referral rate. So the annual client referral rate actually increasing, well, that's the goal. As far as the timeline, like how long will it take to achieve this goal? I think of it in terms of 80-20. If you think about the 20% of the systems and processes and attitudes required to achieve that goal, it takes about 4 months. So you can go from not exceeding client expectations to now you're starting to see measurable movement in increasing client satisfaction because the annual client referral rate is starting to move up. You'll see within 4 months improvement, and the clients will be very vocal about it. So it'll be no question in your mind that client satisfaction is on the rise because the clients will be telling you. The best way of telling you is honoring you by giving you referrals. And by the way, I don't ask for referrals. I just never asked for referrals. I thought if I'm knocking their socks off, why wouldn't they introduce me to the people in their life that they know and that they love and that they care about? If I'm really doing my job, or so I thought, they'll introduce me to the people they care about and I won't have to ask them. But okay, if you want to ask for referrals, there's a way to do that's professional, and that's fine. But just for the record, I never asked for referrals, yet I had a referral rate that was very high. But to accomplish that, it requires a team to do 3 things. They have to acknowledge the goal. They need to sign off on it, sign a document saying, I accept this team goal, which is a formal way of saying, I am joining a team. I am acknowledging and accepting my responsibility to pull my weight in this project to consistently exceed clients' expectations. So they have to acknowledge it, accept it, and then they have to contribute. And it's got to be contributing to the goal in a measurable way. And it's their responsibility to provide evidence that they are contributing. That's not as easy as it sounds. To get an entire team, like I'm describing, to hear that goal that I just said, consistently exceeding clients' expectations, to agree, sign off to take responsibility for that, and then showing evidence that you're contributing to the goal. At the very least, you're able to prove that you're pulling your weight, that there are other subject matter experts or team members that are picking up the slack for the ones on the team who are not. That's what's required. If you have those elements in place, you are crystal clear about the mission. Our goal is to be number one in our market. You have a goal for the team. It is to consistently exceed clients' expectations. Literally everyone on the team has acknowledged, accepted, signed off, and shows evidence that they're contributing. That's the kind of urgency that we're looking for on a team like this. All I can say is it's every week or so that somebody on the team, in the moment, they come to the realization that things slipped slightly off track and they were responsible for that. For some people, that's not a good place to be mentally. You don't want to let your team down. You don't want to disappoint anyone. You for sure don't want to disappoint the clients. When all this comes into some people's minds, it moves them to tears. So accept and acknowledge the responsibility, move on, and just keep making progress. The only way to achieve a huge mission like this and the team goal like we described is to have everyone on the team committed to one thing, and that's to making forward progress. And that's to making forward progress constantly, week after week. Some weeks we may make giant leaps of progress. Other weeks we just move inches forward. But there's a commitment on the team to move forward at some measurable progress, to move forward each and every week at some measurable rate. The objective has to be of the team. We're not moving backwards and we're not moving into neutral and we're going to sit here and just idle because some crisis occurred in the firm and now we've got a big distraction. Or, oh my gosh, we're moving from one CRM to another CRM and oh, that just changes everything. And we've got this big distraction du jour. Or I'm moving from one RIA to another one. I've heard it all. It doesn't matter. These things are going to happen all the time. But if you have a team with a commitment to make forward progress every week, you can, no matter what the distractions are. And that's the message here. At the end of the day, what's required? Well, first of all, leadership. So this starts at the top. It's got to be the leaders on the team that are all in for this mission and this goal. Number two, having a mission. We described a mission here today, but does your firm have a mission? If a team member came to you tomorrow and said, what's our team's mission? Would you be able to answer that? You need to have a goal. Do you know how many teams we work with that never had a team goal before? Well, first of all, most financial advisors don't have a team. But those financial advisors, and these are the high-end advisors who do have a team, they don't have a team goal. So you are in, I don't know, the top 1% of 1% if you have a team and you've got a team goal, but you need those three. And with those three in place, the only thing missing is a sense of urgency. So the final piece of the puzzle is everybody's dialed in specifically to what they're doing in their role in this big project. Everybody's got a sense of urgency. So if for a moment they're moved to tears, they can take a pause, turn off their camera, gather their composure, come back, take responsibility, move on, because nobody's thinking about it. Nobody's blaming. It's just, let's accept what happened and move on. Because at the end of the day, if you have a goal like I just described, it's going to take a sense of urgency, not forever, Why is it okay to have this level of urgency on a project like this? Well, because 4 months, 1 year, it took me 34 months, but I was at this number one level in less than a year. So you may take longer to acquire the remaining number of clients or whatever your other goals are. But the urgency is worth it because if you'll put in the front end effort, the sacrifices required on the front end to achieve big mission, big goals, then you'll be in a position to 10x your firm. And trust me, you want to be 10x. You want to be the firm that is the number one most dominant firm in your market, hands down. Because when that reputation of yours starts to spread around, you'll acquire clients so fast, you won't believe it. It's the easiest business in the world to run is a firm where you're the number one, and you'll grow 10x if you're in the number one spot in your market. If you're number two or three, you can't be a close second and acquire clients quickly. You want to acquire clients quickly, be number one. All right. I hope this was helpful.